Okay, we are recording. So welcome everybody, and welcome to this series, the first in the series called Living a Gentler Life. And my guest today is Joel Drazner. Now, as I said before, so I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, guys and girls. Is I don't usually I'm not prepared with introductions, and so I can't really say I know much about Joel. I met him first in another space, the space of Rohini and Barbara, and at one point Joel posted something about the tree. What was that? I'll unmute you.
I'm glad you unmuted me. That didn't seem to jog my memory any further of what I posted months ago. I can barely remember my grocery list from last night.
It was we had a conversation about the Zoom call, the one that I instigated, kind of thing, and it was about a tree not falling far from your. I'm trying to paraphrase.
Oh, it may have had to do with a post that I kind of quickly put on my Facebook page that caught a lot of attention, I suppose.
Yeah.
I was trying to be clever in saying that one great realization that I've had recently is that nothing that I experience in life exists outside of my capacity to have that experience. So I try to cleverly liken it to that old philosophical chestnut about it. If a tree falls in the forest and it doesn't make a sound, does anybody hear it?
Okay, that's the one I'm talking about.
There's actually a terrible politically incorrect joke about that some satirists who did a magazine called National Lampoon said many years ago, and it's absolutely terrible, and you can't force me to say it here.
No, and I'm not going to force you, because I'm don't worry, because we will digress, and I want to continue with my train of thought. And that is when I met you during the Zoom call, I remember being touched. You see, I'm not into the intellectual part, the conversation of the understanding of how life works. It confuses me sometimes. It really does my head in. But if I connect with someone through the feeling, and during that Zoom call, I connected to you on a level that was very soft. That's where I met you. So I thought, okay, he might be living from a gentler space. And then you invited people to have a conversation some time ago, I think, in Barbara and Rohini's group. And I said, I'd like to. Do you remember that? And then you friended me on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you friended me on Facebook, and then we had that conversation. Then I thought, right, now I really want to have a conversation with this guy. And when we talked a week ago, I felt it again. And there, on the spur of the moment, I thought, maybe we could start the series with Joel and talk about this living from a gentler space. And my question to you is, are you living a gentler life, Joel?
That's a really interesting question to me, because it reminds me of another thing that I thought of, and I think there's a parallel. When I was writing something once, I was dabbling with some fiction writing, and I had a character say, I'm not sure if I'm confident or if I just really, really think that I am. And that sort of paradox I have an awareness of that right now as well. It really, really seems to me as if I'm living a gentler life. At the same time, the more I'm considering why or how this is, I'm seeing that I'm living the same life that I've been living, but this gentle space was just like covered up with lots of other stuff, like if you had a storeroom and you had a really important book to you that you couldn't find, but if you moved a whole bunch of boxes and broken toys and old electronic equipment out of the way and you found the book, well, the book was always there. So the sense of a gentler life is, it's not like I've acquired something so much as I have more of a conscious connection to something that I know was under the surface all the time. Does that make any sense? I can't hear you.
I was muted.
Oh.
Yes, it does. And I understand, I resonate with that gentle space. And I still have sometimes a chaotic brain. I still get caught in thought storms. But what I've noticed is, if I, for example, you mentioned a book and you're looking for a book, but it's always there, you just don't see it. Before I would really get frazzled and hot under the collar and where's the book? And I don't bother now. I just couldn't be, I just, okay. If the dog was really taking her time to pee, and I would, so I really understand that the things that used to be an issue for me, getting stuck in traffic, getting the simple things that seemed really important for me to get mad about. So I understand that. And what I'd like to ask you another question. And guys, I'm Emma, Michelle, and Joe, right? Yeah. I'm not, I don't want to make this a one-to-one conversation. I want us to all, contribute. That is, if you want to. But I want to ask him another question. You said beneath that all, I'm always I have this consciousness that I'm connected to something else. Can you expand on that, please?
I think that I can, and I'll attempt it. The tricky thing is that I'm trying to describe something that at the time that I'm describing it, it's now in retrospect when I'm looking back at the past experience. So it's hard for me to know for sure that when I'm going through the things that I imagine are perturbing my inner peace at times. It's hard from this standpoint to look back and see if I'm aware that this state exists underneath that. But in this moment, it seems like, yes, that's true, that some of this sense of clarity and calm and inner peace and equanimity that I've been experiencing more and more as I look to this inside out description of how life works. Seems like that bleeds from the background into the foreground, even in the times when I'm not so clear and I get snagged again by the illusions.
Mm.
And I also see how naturally or normally it is that my mind wants to make measuring and rating scales out of how much did I know, how much am I suffering compared to how I used to suffer? Is it better that I'm suffering less than I used to suffer in the past? And how do I get more of the thing that seems like it may be better before? And I just am naturally drawn into that mode of analysis of my life without trying to get there. It's just such a normal part of my experience. But what's been added lately to the normal part of the experience is catching myself wanting to make those rating and measuring scales. And then when I see that, I feel like I have some agency in not pursuing them anymore.
Yeah. I think for me, that's once someone once told me, once you've seen something, you can't unsee it. And as time goes by, you will realize that at first you kind of make a conscious effort to keep seeing it. It's like learning how to drive a car. You know, when I got into the car, the driving instructor said, look, you see, you have A, B, C, accelerator, brake, clutch. Then you have the gear lever, and then you have the windows and whatever. And you have to really concentrate and try to learn. But without you knowing, it gets into what you were talking about. It gets into your unconscious. And I think that's what's happening to me as well. I still do inquire. And I think we are wired to inquire until we just stop inquiring. But I'd like to, what do you think? Shall we open it up a bit? I'm really curious to know what Jo is thinking with her biro in her mouth. Would you like to, could you explain? I'd like to ask you the same question, Jo. Are you living a gentler life? If I may.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've got this crazy capacity to attack ourselves in a way which is kind of quite tragic, really, about life. But also, we've got the ability to let go of all of that. And I think I've let go of a lot of my own self-judgments and judgment about others. And in that space, just a gentleness has emerged, like a more of a natural calm and ease, and yeah, so it's a good word, I think. Yeah, having a gentler life.
I'm really glad you touched upon that, being less judgmental towards myself, because what I find is that I'm becoming more gentle towards Diane and not judging any experience I have. And I'm really touched by Sid's quote. If there's anything, how does he say it? If we could all learn to not resist or just be with our experience, the world will become a better place. The world, which I don't remember, I can't. So before I really, really used to judge, feeling bad and wanting to fix. So that has become gentle. Okay, Mish, I'm just reading. Okay, Mish, thanks for joining us. See ya. Emma.
Hi. Hold on, I'll start my video. Where am I? Oh, I don't know how to do it. Oh, here I am. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I'm definitely living a gentler life. Very much to the last lady, really. Less judgment about others and about myself. Not getting into so much confrontation with people. It still happens, obviously. It does still happen. We're human. But I don't get too entangled into all the attachments that come with it. You know, if you have an argument with someone, all the other attachments that come with it. Lots really, just generally more relaxed. I used to be really busy all the time, you know, like in the mind, I mean, more than, but I was always a really busy person. So of course I'm more relaxed. Well, even just sitting here, I mean, this probably wasn't known, you know, a few years back. I wouldn't have sort of sat really, because of guilt of sitting down, and just my mind was just too busy really. So I lived a life of OCD quite a lot, control, escapism, you know, funny behaviours attached to that. So I've been into the principles probably for about about 3 years, 4 years. And I think the important thing for me is being more compassionate to other human beings, really, rather than, to me, there's just no right or wrong in life. There's no better, I'm better than anyone, or anyone's better than me. We're just all one. We're just all connected, and everyone is just one, really. So I think it just helps you live a more of a peaceful life, really, just more, but an enjoyable life. I'm more excited for life, where before it'd be, oh, this is crap, or why is this happening to me, and why is these nasty things happening. I don't do that much so often. I don't question stuff. I just live it, or try to live it the best I can. And even when I have bad days or bad moments, shall we say, I don't judge it. I just tend to just go with it, which is powerful for me personally. And then I think I just see that in other people. I just understand. I'm starting to understand people better. That's quite important for me, because there was always quite a lot of judgment where it isn't anymore. It's more love now, just unconditional love, you know, and acceptance for other human beings and my children and my teenager daughter and people around me, really. So my relationships have all sort of changed a lot around me, because I just see that everyone is just involved in their thinking. A lot of the time they're creating their own realities through their thought. So if I can see it in myself and understand there's this bigger power behind it, then I can see it in others. And that for me is powerful, because it just makes me understand humans, which before I never really did. I judged quite a lot. I had quite a lot of beliefs that I thought was right or wrong, and there isn't any of that really anymore. That's the bottom line for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's logical for me. I think if I'm judging myself, if I've got if there's a measuring stick I'm using for myself, I'm naturally going to extend it to others.
Yeah.
So, and the minute you stop, you're going to use practically the same measuring stick. I suppose it's part of what happened, but
yeah. But the more deeper I'm going into the understanding, and the more insights I'm having, I just, everything, it used, for me, I suppose, it used to always be, when I first got understood the principles, I went on a couple of retreats with Dick and Bettinger and that, and it was awesome, and I had this massive insight, and it was great. And then I sort of lived this sort of self-righteous sort of place for sort of about 6 months to a year, where I was basically judging everyone else, you know, like, oh, well, you should know what I know, because if you knew what I knew, then, you know, you would be fixed and you wouldn't suffer. And then I went on, it was about 3 months ago, and I went on a one-to-one with Dave Ellery and Jenny Aniston, and with my husband, who also I've pulled on board, really, because he's lived a life of sort of real bad anger, like really bad anger, rage, addictive behaviour, and thought that was who he was. He really thought that was him. And then and he used to always say to me, it's not just thought, you're talking a load of shit. You know, he really did used to get annoyed with me when he was having a rage. I would just say, darling, it's come on, you know it's thought. And he'd say, which obviously for me was really patronising and judging, but for him was even worse, because he was like on red and he was like, my fucking God, this isn't thought, this is how I feel. You know, this is real for me. And it got to the point that it was causing such a problem in our marriage and his parenting and just his general loving himself. He didn't love it. He didn't even love himself at all. He hated who the person he was. He had a lot of guilt. And anyway, we done this one-to-one with Dave and Jenny. And he got it within the first day. And he was like, oh, my God. Like, so basically he understood. He said, I've lived a prisoner in my own mind for 30 odd years. And he said he totally gets it now, but he sees it more in a deeper way than me. I mean, I still use it in mind, consciousness and thought. That's how it works for me personally. You know, thought creating your feeling, creating your reality. For my husband, it is more oneness, like it's everything and nothing. Do you know what I mean? He's more deeper, but he's totally transformed. He still gets angry, but he's cool with it. When he gets angry, he goes up to red and then he comes down within 2 seconds later, and he doesn't attach all the guilt and everything about it. He moves on moment to moment. So for him, it's transformed his life. But I still was doing 80% 3 principles and 20% judging. I still thought there was an element. No, when my husband is angry and calling me this, that, and the other, I feel this. This is his problem. He's making me feel this. And then when I went on this one-to-one with Dave and Jenny, I just had another insight, and I was like, oh my God, it isn't. It's 100%. This is 100% running through us all the time. So when I can't ever go back, like what you were saying earlier. I really liked you can't, it's like driving a car, like you say, you can't unlearn it. And once you get it, it is like deeper, for me personally anyway. My experience is it's just deeper and deeper learning about it.
This would be interesting to expand on, because I find also you were talking about the 80-20% and the patronizing. I think I did it. I think we all do it because you want people to understand something that feels like gold, so you want everybody to know it.
Oh God, yeah. You just want everyone to know it.
Yeah.
And I tried to do that with my children. I tried forcing it, like forcing it on them, you know, all the time. Well, you know, I mean, my daughter is 14 and she's challenging at times. She's a teenager. But we used to argue all the time. But I'm noticing piece by piece, I'm not getting into it anymore, because I do still at times, because obviously when she's being nasty to me, it hurts. It does hurt. I'm a human being. But
And this is what I want to expand on. This is the danger that I see. To me, it's maybe danger is a big word. I think we're allowed to experience whatever we're experiencing in the moment.
Yeah, sure.
So if because in all, I'm a human being. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a human being. Oh my God! I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. But there was a point in my life, and still sometimes now, where I wasn't allowing myself to experience others. I know it's always inside. I know. There's no doubt about that. But I think, and I'd like to expand on this and ask Joel what you're thinking as well about this. That it's important to allow ourselves to experience stuff. I mean, and because after all, we are human.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where I was going wrong. When I was 80-20, I was trying to sort of be a positive thinker and, oh yeah, it's my thought. Oh yeah, that's all right. Well, I don't get affected. But actually, it's cool to be affected. It's fine to be affected, isn't it? Yeah. It's good to experience. I mean, someone told me a metaphor once, which I really liked. It was something about, you know, if you see a rainbow with all the colours in it, you know, it's beautiful, isn't it? But actually, that is to to our eyes, it's all the colours, but actually it's not. It's pure white. It's pure light, isn't it? It's one, the rainbow, when you look at it, because I think it's something to do with how the lights are all reflecting off each other, which is showing all the spectrums of colour. But if you imagine all those spectrums of colour as being emotions, ranging from joy to anger to guilt to shame to all the... Now, you wouldn't look at a rainbow and go, well, I quite like purple, but black, blue can piss off because I don't really like blue, and pink's okay, but purple's a bit dodgy. You accept it all, don't you? And you look at the rainbow and think, well, that's just beautiful. I love rainbows personally. I really love them. And I just, and I think, well, that's right, really. Human beings are it all, aren't they? We are, like you say, should experience everything.
Well,
without trying to shun it.
I think for me, it's not black or white. It's gray. So if I do judge, I still judge, and I don't feel any qualms about it. I don't feel guilt about it. I judge, period. So if I judge the judgment, then I'm interested in what Joel is thinking.
Yeah.
Because he's looking and grinning. And
yeah, me too.
Perhaps I should weigh in with what I'm thinking.
Yeah, please.
This is so delightful, Emma. Thanks for sharing all of that. I had the sense that if you were to just stand up in public every now and then and just share what you shared, many people would be well served by that. The last metaphor you were talking about in terms of the rainbow and the different colors. Lately, my sense of things have been to apply that rainbow metaphor to all of us people. Not just the individual experiencing the rainbow with the different colors and maybe passing different judgments on the different colors. But all of us people are a different color of an infinite rainbow with infinite shades between each of the colors. This oneness that you were speaking of, that your husband was really digging, and that you were also alluding to seeing. It's feeling more and more to me like that's what it is. There's just this one uber substance, if you will. It's just molding itself continually into different things, including each of us different things. And each of us different things just have a capacity for expanding that one thing further through this gift of thought and all the moment-to-moment life experiences that we create. So sometimes it will seem to me like I am sitting in the universe's coolest theme park ride, and the car of that ride is shaped exactly like me and looks exactly like me. And the technicians who created this car were so advanced in what they did that they even allowed me to have physical feelings while sitting in this car, like it could move my appendages and have sensations and stuff like that. And then from this car, I will go through all the adventures of my life, the dramas, the comedies, the neutral experiences, the petty annoyances, the minor pleasures, all of that. But within the car that looks and quacks like me, I am just safely strapped in, undamageable, unbreakable, really nothing but a being of love. And I could just enjoy the ride, the game of life, the whatever there is to be experienced. Whatever the outer thing that looks like me responds to in the world, it's all okay. Because even that outer thing that looks like me is just part of that amusement park ride. But the real me is that always safe passenger. And the more I get glimmers of that, wow, the okay. I don't have a good noun or verb for it, but the okayness of life is so present, and the byproduct of that is the sense of the gentler life, the happier life, no matter what's going on, the unconditional loving for all people in their experience, the not needing anything to be different than it is in order to be better than I am right now, but also the allowance of my personal preferences to rise and fall as they may. The gift of this understanding for me has been having more and more time feeling like I'm sitting safely in that me-shaped theme park ride. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Thanks for that. That was lovely. Thank you, Joe. Lovely.
So, so living a gentler life for you, if I heard it correctly, I purposely stayed silent so that I could. I like silence. I just love it. It speaks volumes. So living a gentler life also means for you that when the waters are troubled, so to speak, because you allow yourself to experience it, it seems more gentle. Did I get that right?
Well, and this is where it's really it's the forefront for me of where words are inadequate to the task of describing what this is. Because I don't want to imply that I was doing something to get to this space. I'm trying my best to describe something that the sense of an awareness that naturally has arisen from just getting more and more glimmers of understanding. So even in the title of the series, which is a beautiful title, as we were approaching the time of the webinar this morning, I was dancing back and forth within my personal consciousness about what I liked about the title and what looked troubling about the title. Because if we aren't exploring what we've been exploring, then it could be easy to make the assumption, like if I was new to this, or I just stumbled on the fact that you were having a webinar on this, but I hadn't explored this at all, and I saw that, it would be very normal for me to think like, oh yeah, living a gentler life would be a better place to be than I'm at right now. So I need to attend this webinar or this series so I could really get this good missing information for my life in order to be in a better place. But those of us who keep looking in this understanding start to realize, you know what? There really is no point B in life. There is no place in space and time that's different from where we are right now, where life is better, fundamentally. So the tricky needle threading is, how do we, or how much of a concession do we need to make to people who don't grasp this understanding in order to engage with them, to then point to them that even the little enticement that brought them to the discussion was a red herring. It wasn't even the mode to look in order to get what it is that they thought they were seeking.
The word concession is bothering me, but I suppose you're alluding to someone who's already been exposed to the principles and would be on this webinar, and basically what you're saying, it's not in the doing, it's in the being, in whichever form being is.
Yes, and people who aren't yet familiar with this, very often or almost always, they're only stepping through the gateway to finding out about this is because they imagine that they do need some sort of improvement in their life. And they may have explored many other paths and it hasn't worked for them, so now they found out yet another one. So what I mean by concession is, at the gateway, we're saying, oh, we get that this person has this illusion that they don't know that they're already okay. So the billboard or the decoration we put at the door to the gateway seems to agree with that, just so they'll walk in the door and then we can explain to them what this is. So the word I'm using is we're making a concession to what we imagine their level of misunderstanding is at this moment. But at the same time, at least for myself, it's important for me to know that once I walk them in, I'm not going to buy into the misunderstanding myself and think, oh yes, they need this in order to be better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
Okay, because actually, even if they don't have this understanding, they're not living a misunderstanding, is my take on that. They're living life with their own understanding of life. So
this is why words are so difficult to use to try to describe things.
Exactly. And all we have is words, I'm afraid.
Well, I could make noises, but even though misinterpreted.
Yeah, and also this word illusion that we keep bouncing around, and which still doesn't sit well with me, because even though I know there is truth in that on some level, I know there is truth in that. Hi, Ryan. I know that there's truth in that. I still think that being very crude about it, when I cut my hand, I bleed, and when I go to the toilet, it's not an illusion. So,
right, and I don't think experience itself is an illusion. It's who we imagine the experience is happening to. We could have an interesting discussion about. But experience is absolutely real. We experience stuff. The illusion, as it were, and perhaps there is a better word, but the wiggle room is in the idea of a self that's separate from everything that the rest of the world is impinging itself upon, versus we are all sharing this one being and experiencing the many forms of it.
Well, it's probably illusion, and that word in and of itself could be another webinar.
Oh, at least one.
Or a series, but for me, it still remains, because it still remains living a gentler life.
Yeah.
Well,
I think in along the lines of a gentler life, then, for me, and I'm not asking people to believe what I'm saying, but to consider the possibility that when I see myself as separate from everything, it's within that view of myself as being separate that any possible thing that I could suffer over exists. But
when you see yourself as, sorry, Anton,
when I see myself as a separate self, that's the fertile field of possibility of infinite ways to suffer over things. That's the realm within the natural tendency towards rating scales and measurements and the needing things to be better than they are. All of that exists in this part of the pendulum swing of my consciousness that sees me as a separate self. Then when, just as normally, more and more these days, I get the sense of my just being part of the whole, part of this whole shared being, then the natural result of that for me is residing in a gentler place of acceptance, of love, of compassion, of all these things that I tried in the past to do before I understood how things work. These are just freestanding qualities. And they're more available to me.
The difficulty I have with that is that, and I'll just say this, and then I'd like to ask Mayanka and Ryan the same question, if that's okay with you. The difficulty I have with this understanding and people at large, so to speak, is one that man, from time, we are wired to think that we are separate. I think deep down, I've known for a very long time that I'm not. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew. But because I have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere, so I have a cognitive brain and I have the other side that knows this infinite oneness, I'm bound to fall into the illusion of being separate. And that to me is the illusion. But most times we're living in that space that we think we are separate. But as I said, I think that this discussion becomes so philosophical and sometimes so beyond it. I don't know how to. Yeah, again, it goes a bit beyond what I'm trying to convey with this series, without making it overly complicated, because we can't put words to it, right, Joel? I think we agree on this.
Right.
And I'd rather point people to this simple understanding that we can have a gentler life by just, I don't know how to continue to. We can have a gentle life even when we think we're separate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see no daylight between my wordy explanation and what you just said there. I was basically trying to just recount my own examination of why or how it is that I am experiencing a gentler life, and that's what came to me.
And I appreciate that, Joel. And I do feel that you are living a gentler life. I don't think I would have invited you otherwise. Sorry, it sounds.
or as the before and after picture, like
But the illusion part for me is still a sticky situation. Okay. Hello, Mayanka. Okay, I've just unmuted you.
Hello.
Hi, Mayanka.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry. I just tuned in.
You're welcome. It's okay. I asked the others, since you've come across this understanding, and if you'd like to, feel free not to share. Are you living a gentler life? This is the name of the series.
Sometimes, not all the time. I think the more, the lesser part is gentler, but the other part is still, I wouldn't say hard, but very stressful.
Thank you.
Especially when I have a lot to do at work, and well, my parents-in-law were over for a week. Still have to work, do extra cooking, extra nice cooking, be nice, be representative. Yeah, that causes a lot of stress for me.
Thank you, Mayanka, for sharing. Ryan. Hello.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Hi.
Hi, Joel.
Would you like to share? Would you like to share with us? If since you've come across this understanding, are you living a gentler life, and how are you living a gentler life? Although it's not about the how.
Yeah, I would say I live a pretty easy, gentle life. And just a minute ago, when you were saying, it's hard, you feel in some ways it's you're the oneness, and other ways not. I feel like I go to the feeling. So I feel, we can feel the oneness, but sometimes we can't convince our intellect, but we don't need to. So for me, it's so simple. Just like, boom, don't need to understand it. So the gentleness has come to me in ways like that. I just have very little need for anything ever. So then I'm just free to do what I want to do. I have total permission within myself to. I'm the only one who give myself permission. Nobody's keeping score. Nobody's telling me what I need to do. So I could do something or not. So it's easy.
I love that.
Thank you.
And in regard to what I was saying before, and just really just adding on to what Ryan was saying, it's looking more and more to me like the times that I do, for lack of a better verb, like plug into that sense of oneness. I don't need to be there all the time. In the times for whatever reason, life unplugs me or whatever, and I don't see it, just the fact that I have plugged in, that resides underneath all the cuckoo times. and part of living a gentler life is even having just the tiniest glimmer that condition resides underneath all the cuckoo.
Mm-hmm.
So now the cuckoo is permanently changed from what it used to be when I thought there was only the cuckoo.
I think what sprung out for me is I don't have to be there all the time. The fact that we, you know, if we're constantly looking for that being there all the time, we're never going to be there. One. And then it becomes about being and not doing. It's to me it's simple. I mean, because I go through chaotic thinking on a daily basis, and I would challenge anyone who says that he doesn't. Personally, I stand corrected. I think that it's human to have chaotic thinking. If I compare myself to before, on a scale of 1 to 10, I take it less seriously now, the chaotic thinking. And one appreciation for me, and that's one thing that gives me comfort, is that it is an ebb and flow. There is a constant ebb and flow in our day, and 1 minute I'm laughing, maybe the next minute I'm crying, and the other minute I'm okay or whatever. And I'm menopausal, but Bill Pettit would say it's all thought. Basically, you know what, we can go on forever. Sometimes it's not in the words, it's just in being quiet and just listening. Hey Sue, welcome. Hang on, let me unmute you.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, welcome.
So I asked practically everyone, yes, and I'm asking you now, since I've noticed that you've with your post on what the fuck are the principles, and I saw another one that you got into the car. I'm wondering how, with the name of I keep repeating myself, how are you? Are you living a gentler life?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. A lot of time, like my life before was totally chaotic everywhere, not just in my mind, literally everywhere. You know, I caused chaos wherever I went. And since I've come across the principles, life is just like calm and peaceful and quiet to a degree where I get overwhelmed if I'm around more than 2-3 people, and if they're loud, I'm like, oh, get me out of here. I don't like it, you know. So without a shadow of a doubt, yeah. Not as quiet as I want it to be, not as gentle as I want it to be, but definitely a lot more gentler. Yeah, definitely. And I'm a lot more kinder to myself. And I think that's the key. In one respect, to be gentler and kinder to yourself. And then the world then becomes a lot more of a gentler place for you. If that makes sense.
If you change the way you look at things, things you look at change.
Totally.
So yes, that's,
Totally. You know, and yeah, I used to beat myself up when I couldn't, you know, if I tried to go to the shop or tried to do something, and the anxiety overwhelmed me, and I you know, I didn't do it. I used to beat myself up constantly because I didn't do it. But now, if it overworks, it's oh well, okay then, that's okay. We'll try again. You know, it almost gives you a gentler pace for yourself to look at yourself. And yeah, I've definitely felt that. And like you said, it is a feeling. It's not something that you can analyse. It is definitely that gentle feeling. Definitely.
Lovely.
you know what I've noticed? That when I asked Emma, when I asked Joe, when I asked, there's a common theme. I don't know if you noticed it, Joel. More gentle towards ourselves, less judgmental, and as a consequence, then we're gentle with others. And I think, for me, living a gentler life, I think Sid, from his grave, has said to me, be gentle to yourself and you will live a gentler life.
Oh, beautiful that.
Yeah. And I am gentler. I mean, I had an experience, if you'll allow me, may I share a story?
Please.
Okay. Recently, I applied for a job. No, actually, they called me and they invited me for a job, and my heart was saying yes, and my intellect was saying no, and I chose my intellect, and a few days later, 3 weeks later, I knew why I should have said yes and not no. And I was driving in the cab and taxi, and I started to rant and rave. And then all of a sudden, something came over me, now probably mind. And I started crying, but I grabbed my hand and I said, it's okay. Whichever decision that you've made, it's fine. And there and then I was gentle with myself. And I think that's the biggest gift that this understanding has given me, being gentler with myself. I don't know if you guys recognize this. And yeah, I'm seeing Emma nodding. Sue is nodding. Joel is not nodding.
Well, it's not a matter of nodding as an agreement device. I'm listening to what you said, and I'm realizing that I'm infinitely more gentle with myself than I've ever been. And at the same time, I don't believe that in this time period I've purposely practiced being gentle with myself. And the reason this is so interesting as a distinction is because prior to my coming across this understanding, I spent 2 years in a master's program of spiritual psychology. And I could tell they were, in a rudimentary way, they were trying to point to some of the things that this inside out understanding explains. But they would keep admonishing us to be gentler to ourselves, as if it was a tool to do in order to feel better. And what I'm realizing now is that as a byproduct of the understanding, I am being gentler to myself because I myself exist as part of the whole, and I'm being gentler to the whole of everything. I'm more connected. Even that's a language trap. I'm more aware of my connection to unconditional loving for the whole of everything than I've ever been. In that includes being gentler and more loving to myself.
Can I say, yeah, that's exactly how I see it, Joel. I am very gentle with myself and anyone. It's because I saw, it wasn't a technique, but I see that it's just humanness, and we're all doing basically all the same things. Our thoughts are run rampant, and for me, none of that's any big deal at all. Someone can yell at me, or things can go weird, and I literally chalk it all up to humanness, and it's kind of cute. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of funny. It's like a sentimental thing for me. Like a little kid. I always say it's like a little kid who turns around in the kitchen. He's got chocolate all over his face. And you say, "Did you eat those cookies?" He's like, "No." "Are you sure you didn't eat any cookies?" "No." And it's like, we don't get mad, but we're all doing stuff like that. So none of it's any big deal. That's how things don't bother me, I would say, because it's all like, it's a sentimental humanness that I will miss when I'm not here. I love it. I love it all now.
I love that too. Yeah, things don't bother me except when they bother me. But when they bother me, it doesn't bother me that they bother me.
Yeah. They don't even bother me, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Emma, would you like to share something?
Well, when you was talking, Diane, I could relate with that. I think a few years ago, I think I probably could relate with that. But on the other hand, I could totally get what Joel's saying, that the more deeper I understand, the less doing is involved, period. I don't even think about it. If something happens to me, I mean, I could share a story with you that happened with me yesterday with my sister. I don't want to ramble on, but me and my sister have always been very competitive, and we've got on. We're a close family, but there's always been that element of, she thinks that, she's not good enough for me, and I'm this like higher person, and she's always had to compete, and there's lots of things going on. And we had an argument, I mean, it was straightforward. We had an argument. She really was in a low state at the time that I was speaking to her about something about her mum that's poorly, and I wanted to talk to my sister about it as a sister, just as I just wanted to have an open conversation, because I can now, without any judgment, without anything. I can just say what's on my mind, and in a neutral way, I'm comfortable doing that. And she at times still isn't. She still thinks the old Emma's there. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't want to say old and new, because it's all one, but the old sort of Emma who used to maybe not be comfortable in that type of environment. And she was particularly at a low state, and she sort of just completely reacted and really kicked off and shouted, and I just remained calm. But it wasn't a doing. I didn't think to myself, "Oh, I'm going to remain calm here." I just purely saw it for what it was. The experience that was coming to me, or my version of the experience that was coming to me, was peaceful, even though she was very confrontational and saying not very nice things from the past and all sorts, everything, attachments was all coming in. But I really did I wanted to just get out the car and give her a hug. but I knew that she probably would have whopped me one. You know, she probably would have smacked me because she was really, really in that moment very angry. And so she slammed the door and off I drove. And normally I would really get entangled in it, you know, like a couple of years ago, I really would have been bothered by it, and it would have played on my mind, and I would have relived it a million times over. Oh, I should have said this, or I should have done that, or you know, and I didn't. I just carried on with my day. And about an hour later, I just texted her and I just said, I'm really sorry that, you know, you felt the things you felt, and etc. etc. And I just said sorry and that I loved her. And she bit back with some reaction again, and I thought, oh, she's clearly not in a good place still, so I'm just going to leave her to it, you know. And later on in the evening, she actually sort of rang me, and she was in tears, and she just said, I'm so sorry, because I've totally seen it for what it is. She said, you didn't even have a go at me back. You just didn't do anything, which pissed me off even more. Because she was use my language, but she really wanted me to react. She wanted that because it was safe for her. Do you know what I mean? She didn't want to be behaving the way she was behaving towards me, but in that moment it was safe for her to be aggressive, because inside she was hurting for whatever reason. And I just said to her, look, it's cool, you know, it's like, I didn't feel the need to have it say anything to you, you know. And she said, well, how can you be like that? I mean, you know, didn't it annoy you what I said? And she said, I didn't mean any of it. She said, I love you to death, and I didn't mean any of it. It was all just words. And I said, well, that's it. I knew you at that moment. I knew it was just thought for you, but that was real for you. Your thought, your thinking was creating your feeling that you were pissed off with me. And but she said, so for her it sort of turned around, because it gave her a little insight, because she's interested in the three principles, but she is very much still questioning a lot of it. She suffers sort of with mental illness, and she's lived it for a long time, and in a weird way for her it's safe. And she says, I don't want to live like it, but it's sort of a safe place for me. And where before I used to be shoving this down her throat, you know, showing her videos, getting her in on webinars, I've learned from that experience with her that you've just got to remain in your space and just and understand it is when I'm in my space and when I'm having all these weird thoughts about the situation, and that I could have texted her and slagged her off and said this and that. Where does that get us? It gets us nowhere. And that was a powerful learning curve for me. You know, it was really powerful, because I could have easily got into it. And even now I still think about that situation, and I think, oh, for God's sake, it really annoyed me. But it didn't annoy me, and I just think it annoyed me. You know, I know behind that is a bigger power, and it is. I know you earlier on you said about thought. You know, for me it is just 100% all the time. It is thought running through us. How we react to that is how we react to it.
Yeah.
And whatever is fine, you know. But I do have people confrontate me quite a lot on, well, so it's okay when people treat you like shit, you know, is it okay? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not saying the behaviour is okay, but I understand why people behave the way they do. It just is it just makes sense to me.
For me, this understanding has given me the tools, for want of a better word. I mean, there are two things that struck me in what you said. To tell someone what I will and will not tolerate. So whereas before I used to allow certain things that I just to people please. Now I will understand, but I will also speak my mind. I will not go to the point of saying, oh, okay, he's feeling, he's thinking, so I'm going to be really gentle towards this guy. I'm really going, yeah, of course I know, that's all the time. But that doesn't mean I'm going to allow someone to step over. My boundaries have become much clearer now, and part of being gentler to myself.
But I think when you come from a place of understanding and love for yourself and others, it's a different type of boundary system.
Yeah.
You understand what do you understand?
Yeah, but I won't get pissed off at I won't be pissed off at myself if I do get angry. I'll just say, fine, I just got angry. I allow myself to experience. You know, maybe this is the difficulty I have with this. I allow myself to be completely 100% unashamedly human. 100%. Now that is where I'm coming from. Separateness, not separateness, inside out, outside in, upside, whatever. Way around, upside down, whatever. I will allow myself 100% permission to be unashamedly human.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, I mean, I've come across so many people who will people please, who will go upside down to be loved. And I don't have to do that, and I refuse to do that.
Yeah.
I will have compassion for you, and I learned, I mean, because I'm being compassionate for myself, but I will tell someone from a place of gentle, loving care what I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's a different, it comes across different. I'm learning this with my teenager. It comes across different in a way. If I'm truly in a good space or my space, and I'm coming across with curiosity of why she's behaving or why she said what she said in that moment to me, with curiosity, not with judgment, with why are you? What is going on for you? Rather than what the fuck is going on for you? You're already being nasty. I don't know. It's just I'm just getting better responses that way. I mean, years ago, when I first got into principles, I mean, I literally stepped away from life. Because I didn't want to hear people's negativity. I didn't want to watch the news. I didn't want to do any of that because I thought, well, no, when you're with the principles, you just aren't like that, and it's like, what a load of rubbish that was, because I'm now I take every part of life, good and bad and indifferent, and take it all on the chin with a stillness. And that is different to positive thinking, because I've searched all my life for sort of theories and, I've had therapy and all types of things like that for my OCD and control issues, and because it was making me ill, they kept taking me back into the past, and I didn't see anything wrong with my past, really. Maybe there was something that was subconsciously there, but I just love the fact that I can wake up each morning and be who I'm in control of, who I want to be.
Yeah. Use the word control. Oh, okay. I don't think we are in control, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, but I'm peaceful anyway. Let's put it that way. I'm living a simpler life.
Okay. I wonder if Jo is there, if she wants to add something. I wonder if you want to add something, Joel, because you did want to say something, and then me and them are just like.
No, I was really enjoying Emma's report. I've been experiencing something lately that I've been finding very difficult to put into words, which is interesting to me because I've had a love of words. My other job is that I work as an editor of books and publications and stuff, and yet I'm seeing that the very substance of words themselves all exist after the fact of being a human being in this world. Words are they're a byproduct of this capacity we have to have a human experience. And because they're our only currency really for expressing the experience, they're very close to us. But if we don't understand that even words themselves come after the fact, then we can wield words in a way that fosters our unclarity. And therefore, even the personal expressions of how we understand these principles or this inside-out understanding or whatever, by default can only be a personal view of it. And at best then can only point each of us to what's going on behind those words. In order to allow our own insights to fashion the way to live this gentler life as a byproduct of the understanding. It's very difficult to find it within the specific stories or testimonials, or this teacher teaches it this way and that teacher teaches it that way, or this teacher isn't part of it but says things that sound exactly like whatever. All that exists in the world of already created form too. But this understanding points to that within us that's universal and exists before those forms. I realize that there's a lot of vagueness to what I'm saying, and I don't have the facility to say that any clearer than I've said it right now, but there's a feeling that comes inside of me when I say that, mm-hmm. that seems to suggest to me that I'm feeling closer to it than I've ever felt. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to carry me through today, to just kind of gently reflect on it, and maybe I'll be able to say what I mean better later. The one thing that I do know is that I've been experiencing a really nice feeling throughout this discussion today. In the fact that I know a few of you, about half of you I haven't met before. And I know we're all in different parts of the world. I'm in Los Angeles. But the fact that I could have this comfortable feeling with all of you and communicate with all of you to the degree we can communicate seems to me part of this amazing miracle that I'm so appreciative of, just even having the opportunity to bathe in, bask in, wallow in, say things wrong in, all of
that. You might have noticed that I do just tend to be quiet, and I used to be really uncomfortable with moments of silence. Now I just allow them. I'm completely comfortable with it, because it's that's where I'm is it a doing? That's, but we're in a room, as you said, we're in a Zoom room with people, with half the people I don't know. I've never met. I've met Ryan once. I never met Joe. I've never met Emma. I've seen Sue a couple of times. I've met you a couple. Mayanka is a very good friend of mine. We can go around in circles. We can discuss this and talk about this till we go blue in the face. It really isn't about the words, and I think for me, as you said, it's all a personal view. It's we see what we see when we see it. And I think my message is, oh, there's a little girl there.
Yeah, that's Madeline.
Yeah. To me, I want to be unashamedly human, knowing that even when I'm in chaos, that part of me is always whole. Nobody...